Hi everyone, and I'm back with something a little bit different today. And if you've been watching the channel, you will have seen that I've been doing lots of movie reviews, and pretty much the line through them all has been the Academy Awards, which are on this Sunday in America, Monday morning in Australia. And so I've reviewed and seen all the Best Picture nominees. And by definition, if you've seen all the Best Picture nominees, you kind of see 60 to 70% of the other awards, especially the acting ones. And then I've picked up as many of them. And the technical ones are normally a lot more of mainstream kind of films. So what I'm going to do is I've got my notes here and we're going to go through it. It's not going to be a long thing. I'm not going to stretch it out. And I'm just going to say what the awards are and what I think will win and what I think should win. There's a big difference between the two, especially if you know anything about the history and legacy of the Oscars. The other good thing about this is often people are now running Oscar pools or lotteries or whatever, where you have to fill them in and see how you go. And if you haven't seen everything, sometimes that can be hard because you might have seen something and thought it was great, and you put that down and really you don't know that the favorite is something completely different. So before we get into the main awards, I've got my bit of paper here to remind me. I just want to say what you could easily get tricked on is if you're doing one of those long things where you've got to pick every award, First Man, although it didn't do well at the box office, will be very good for the technical awards. Same with the Avengers. So just think about that. Okay, so I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way up to Best Picture. So normally I probably wouldn't talk about this, but Best Animated Film. Look, Pixar has dominated this category for a decade, and you would have thought they'd be a shoo-in this year with Incredibles 2, but I just want to get out there. If you've seen my review, Spider-Verse will win, and Spider-Verse should win. And the reason is because in the animation community and just generally with critics, there's just been a groundswell that this was doing something completely different and should be rewarded. Okay, then a Best Original Screenplay. Best Original Screenplay is often an interesting category, same for Best Adapted, because it is, of all the mainstream awards, the one where the Academy takes a bit more of a chance and often will reward someone like a Tarantino or someone with an award which they wouldn't get like as Best Director or something. So Best Original is going to be the favorite, and it should win and it will win. It's by far the most interesting script of all the films which have been nominated, and just beautifully done. I really liked it. I was surprised actually. I thought it was a book which had been adapted, so I was surprised when I saw it in original. Best Adapted Screenplay. This is a really interesting kind of category because I actually think the Best Adapted Screenplay is A Star is Born, which is a bit of a boring answer, but I just think that what Cooper did and his team is they took something which had been, everyone knew that story, everyone had seen it numerous times, and they adapted it for this time. And I thought really it's been snubbed by the Academy, this film, and really no one's talking about it, but I thought it was great. But actually the film which will win will probably be Black Klansman. And that's because A, it's a good film. I think there's a lot of motivation to give Spike Lee a bit of love because of the things he predicted about America. I think for a long time he was saying America is an incredibly racist nation and it still hasn't gotten over the legacy of slavery and the Civil War and the Civil Rights Movement. And a lot of people are saying, oh, that's not our America. And it's like in the Trump era, reality is now caught up with what Spike Lee's been saying. Leading on from that, Best Supporting Actor, and you had a weird pool of people. Normally there's a standout, and Probably the sympathy is with Mahershala Ali, who's just great in everything. But I actually think it's a bit of a furphy because, look, Viggo Mortensen is in the Best Actor category, and I don't know, they were in nearly as many scenes. So, and I thought Ali was good, but a little bit. You could see he was acting. I use the phrase, you could see the wheels turning a lot. I think he will win, but I actually think the best performance was Adam Driver, who had a lot of things going on in that role, and he's just really good at it. And he really was able to flesh out what would have been generally a bit of a throwaway. Then we go on to Best Supporting Actress, and for me this is no competition. Rachel Weisz was by far the best of the actresses nominated. I think she dominated The Favourite, and that is, you know, when you consider Emma Stone and Olivia Colman were both great as well. We'll talk about Colman later. But I thought she was just absolutely fantastic. But a lot of people are talking about Regina King, and the problem is, in Australia, I try to see all the littler films, and it's very difficult. They're in art house cinemas, they're not near my house, and often I've got to go and get them somehow. And luckily, a lot of them are on the internet on American systems, and so you can see them at home, even though they haven't come out to the pictures in Australia. And so I haven't seen, and she's in a film called If Beale Street Could Talk, and I haven't seen that. But everyone says she is great in very limited time though, and that might work against her. Then we get to Best Actor, and Best Actor again is an odd category this year because you have some really good performances, but they're laboured performances. So the two lead performances are both impersonations. And one is Rami Malek as Freddie Mercury and Christian Bale as Vice President Dick Cheney. So when you're doing that, it is a different type of acting, and it often leads to awards because people really like that you've been able to bring someone alive. But also, to me, it's a little bit you're not sure of what that person would have been like if it was just straight acting, inventing a character from full cloth. So in my book, I think Christian Bale had a lot more to do here. He's playing someone who is not liked, who is known but not known, and changed his whole body. I think it was really good. I think Rami Malek might win. It'll be between Bale or Malek, and I really like Malek's performance. In fact, I really don't like Bohemian Rhapsody, and the only reason I think that it works at all is because Malek is fantastic, and of course, the great music from Queen. Now we have a similar situation here with Best Actress. So the raging favourite is Glenn Close. Glenn Close is the most nominated woman never to have won an Oscar. Funnily, if she wins, that'll switch then to Amy Adams, who's also nominated in this category. But Olivia Colman is up for The Favourite, and she is excellent. And I think she should win because I think she has to do a lot more work. She's doing a role in which the people around her are respectful and hate her simultaneously. She's both timid and vengeful, a monster, but also we're full of sympathy for her. And so I think Coleman should win. It'd be very hard to beat Close though. You would think that the Academy will want to give her a reward for her lifetime of work. I think she's very good in The Wife, but I just think we've seen that shtick before. Now we're up to Best Director. Gets a bit boring from here because, as you know, I think this is a very weak year for Oscars. But I do think that there is one outstanding film, and that is Roma, and I think it should win, and I think it will win Best Picture, and I think Alfonso Cuarón will win and should win Best Director in a weak year. So that's it. Use this advice markedly, And even if you don't, it's always fun to know all this stuff, and then when you watch the Oscars, you know, you're putting it into some other context. So if you like what I'm doing, press like. I'm doing films and books and stuff all the time, so hit the little bell and I'll subscribe. And I'm on Twitter at Guru Eden, and I'll talk to you very soon. Okay, bye.